I'm Lexy Davis, a love embodiment coach who helps people create a love that feels like home, and I'm here to bring more romance and playfulness into the world. I'm also an international retreat host, vibe curator, and human connector. I serve people through my business, Alive to Enjoy, and this podcast where I invite guests from around the world to sprinkle their wisdom and expand your perspective so you can create the deepest love you possibly can reach in this lifetime. I also want you to live the most joyous life, whatever that looks like to you, and I hope that this slice of the internet brings you lots of smiles and helps you keep your heart open. Thank you for choosing Heart Snuggles to be in your ears each week, and I'm so glad you're here with me. Hello, Heart Snugglers. So happy to be back, and I brought one of my dearest friends, Chloe. We met in Bali about a year ago, and I'm so excited to bring you on here. She's full of wisdom in every area, including relationships. So go ahead and tell them a little bit about you.
Hi, super happy to be here. Yeah, long story short, I've been therapist coach for the last 5 years, and I don't really specialize in anything. I work with women who are, really entrepreneurial, who have their own business, who have this big drive of creating something. And generally, along with this comes a lot of things that have maybe been repressed and areas that they haven't looked at. And so that's what we do together.
So good. Highly recommend her work, and you're going to see why as we continue this conversation. But to start the podcast, I would like to start with my questions, which are, what was the last random act of kindness someone did for you?
Oh, that is so cute. I don't know. I feel like there's so many because my man is just so incredible that it's just like daily little attention that I feel like I'm receiving from him, where it's just like so much support and so much love that I'm like, oh, this is so nice. Where it's like he can be here for me, like really holding space and in such a non-judgment, kind, compassionate way when I'm breaking down. And it's just like, just this on a day-to-day basis is just the best thing ever.
Yeah, that rock. It's just like the
Mm,
stability. That's
yeah.
love that. It's so healing for our nervous systems.
Hmm.
And the next question is, what would you tell a younger version of yourself about love or relationships when she was struggling?
Well, I will say that every relationship brings something deeper in the understanding of yourself, what you want to create, and there's not the right man. They're all the right man at that time for you to get something out of it, for you to grow, to expand, and little by little, it's leading you in the right direction.
Spot on. I love that. And that takes off so much pressure by just acknowledging, even if this isn't your forever person, you're going to grow, you're going to learn, it's going to serve you in some way. And so just allowing that to be.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, like in our society, there's a bit this thing where we feel like a relationship is successful depending on the length of the
Mm,
relationship, right? If
mm,
you've been with that person for 10 years, like, wow, you're so successful in love because you've been with that person for so long, where it's like, is it really the goal? Like, is it just length the goal, but deep down, like, you're not feeling so great with that person, you're not having emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, like, is that really why, so I feel like, yeah, definitely on that. It's like every partner, no matter how bad the relationship was, I'm pretty sure taught you something and therefore was the right
mm.
partner at that time.
Yes, that's such a huge point because we get so caught up, even in friendships, right? Like, I've had this friend for this long. That doesn't equal the quality of it. That doesn't
Mm.
says nothing about the quality of it. And I'd love to hear a little journey about your relationship history to how you've created the current relationship that you're in, or what's it been like before.
Love that. Yeah, I think a lot of women could probably resonate with my story. It's like I didn't have any extremely bad relationship. Like pretty much of all my relationship were kind of good. I had a good time. The men that I was dating before were kind of great. There was never like abuse or, like narcissistic thing happening. No, it was pretty much of a normal relationship, what I call like a bro relationship, where we're more like I don't know, like best friend kind of vibe where we'll party together. Like that was the main point of connection. And it was pretty good. But we didn't really have this deep emotional connection where I could really express what was going on because I didn't have that relationship with myself, funnily enough, but that I understood little by little. But so the relationship were kind of good,
Mm.
but also the two things that felt so different were communication. We were also never really talking about what was going on in the relationship. It was always like, it's good, it's good. And if something wasn't good, we'll just like close our eyes and keep going. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, la 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 la, that's fine. It's just gonna change at some point. He's gonna change, I'm gonna change. But either way, we know that nothing really changed. And what was interesting as well is like I was really avoidant in my previous relationship, but very unconscious of that pattern. So the only conversation that I had with my exes were the breakup one. Or it was like all of a sudden I felt so short because I did not expect the relationship to end because I was living in my la la land of like, no, everything is fine. If there was a problem, it was swept under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
And the only conversation we had was the breakup one, where I was like, oh, and I was like all surprised and shocked that we were breaking up, even though there had been like a lot of accumulation of things, but we were not dealing with them. And so therefore that led to the breaking point. So that was like my previous experience, which was pretty good, I thought. And then, oh my God. And then 2 years ago, I discovered feminine energy and I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, okay. And I started doing some inner work in that and softening and, opening up my heart. And I was like, okay, okay, okay. Well, that sounds pretty good. And then I met a man. And honestly, when I met him, I thought that I was so embodied in my feminine energy. I thought that was like, I'm good with communication. I'm good with my feminine energy. La 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 la. Little did I know. Little did I know. The first, I don't know, the first 3, 4 months of our relationship were so challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So challenging because so many triggered we were both experiencing, and I had no idea. I thought a good relationship, was a relationship where you don't fight. That was my default thinking of what a good relationship was because that's what I had before. So all this fight happening with that man, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is not how it's supposed to be. The beginning should be butterflies and it feels great and everything is amazing. That was not the case at all with this relationship. And for the first time, I was with someone who would not let me do what I would normally do and behave.
Mm-hmm.
And that was deeply triggering for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because what do you mean I can't just flirt with other people and now the man that I'm with is setting a boundary with me? What? Like, nobody has done this before? Like, so many little things happened in the first 4 months that sometimes I was like so annoyed with him because he wouldn't let me behave in the way I used to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like such a big learning curve for me to, yeah, learn how to have conflict, how to communicate, how to even just identify that I had avoidant patterns and behavior. I didn't even know that I was that.
Mm-hmm.
And funnily enough, we talk so much about red flag in coaching and the online space, like you have the red flag of the man and what you should look for. Well, funnily enough, I was the walking red flag. And I thought I was so great. I thought I was like the perfect woman that was already healed, that I had already done so much work. Well, it turned out I was the one who were, yeah, having a lot of red flag happening. And luckily, like we worked it out and then lots of things happened and transformed. But yeah, the beginning of the relationship was not what I expected. Even though when you think, when I meet the right man, then it's going to be perfect and everything is going to be great. Eh, maybe not. And that might be the best thing happening for you, actually.
Yeah, that's the same in my current relationship. And, it's a hard thing to compare because, sometimes that means it's definitely not the right relationship, but you need to be using a deeper inner compass to feel into like, is this actually coming from a place of healthy conflict, healthy accountability and responsibility versus like the more abusive kind and non-productive kind. And when it is in that, that's such a good sign because so often it's just talked about like you were saying, it's like, oh, it should feel so good, so this, so that. And again, you're just not really addressing the truth of what's happening. Because when you're really with a healthy relationship, they're your greatest mirror, that you cannot hide shit from them. And so in that, it's really confronting, and it's also the best possible thing for your growth and for the relationship.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that you mentioned, like the responsibility and accountability was something that was so hard for me at the beginning because again, I wasn't used to have a man who will stand up for himself. I used to be with a man who would let everything pass and also close his eyes on any problem. And so for the first time, I was confronted with someone who will confront me about my behavior and about my actions and how I was doing things. And at first, what I would do would always point the finger back at him. I was like, yeah, but I do this because you do this. And I was always like, this ping pong happening between us where it felt so hard for me to take responsibility for my action and say, I'm sorry, or yes, you're right. That I will always just point the finger back at him and just be like, yeah, but you did this and therefore that led me to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I had to learn what it meant to actually take responsibility and accountability and just be like, yeah, actually, you're right. And that's on my end. And I'm going to change this. And I want something different for us. But that was also like, so difficult for my ego to
Mm.
accept.
Entirely, for so many reasons. I mean, one, we're never role modeled that. Two, it's the fear of if we accept this, okay, then they're going to really see us and then not like us. And then it's like there's so many things that come from just owning it, when in reality, it's like you owning it brings relief to them because they can feel something, they know something. And so then it just brings more trust into the relationship. And then you get to use the love in your relationship to move through that instead of continuously avoiding what is coming up. So I'd love to hear some specific examples, if you can think of any, of things he was pointing out in you that you had to take responsibility for.
Yeah, many. So at the beginning, as I said, when I used to be in relationship where we would borderline flirt with other people and that was fine. And for me, it wasn't even flirting. It was just like, this is who I am. I'm just a very touchy person. So whenever we would go with some of his friends, I would be like super touchy and, like super playful with his friend, which I thought was just normal, right? It's like, it's just who I am. When in fact, there was a bit of a hidden thing happening where I would always be like wanting him to see how great I was by seducing other people in front of him. So if other people want me in front of him, that's going to show him how valuable I am, how beautiful I am, how great I am. And therefore, like that, I keep him. It was such a twisted, twisted behavior. And we even went to a party, like that was early on, like probably like 1 month, 2 months of dating. We went to a party together, and literally in front of him, I was super like not flirting, but really having a deep conversation with one guy. And at the end of the night, I even went to that guy and grabbed his number, asked for his number, and took it in front of my man.
Mm.
And he was like, what the fuck was that? And to me, that felt so innocent. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know. That's just who I am. And for him, that was such a big mark of disrespect.
Mm.
But I hadn't seen that way. So it took like a while for me to actually see that this behavior I was just repeating with pretty much every other man when he was with me, because I thought that in that way, that will just show him how great of a woman I am because I am desired by other people.
And how did you get to that conclusion of actually finding this realization?
Well, that was after conflict and conflict and conflict about it. I took some time just to reflect, to be like, okay, what's actually going on and why am I doing this? And like, if I'm really honest, like radical honesty with yourself is sometimes really hard because we like to tell ourselves the story, right? The story that I was telling myself was, it's just who I am. That's just me. I'm just really flirty and just really nice with other people. But honestly, it was a bit more than that. And so it took, yeah, some radical honesty and just digging a bit deeper.
Yes, I love that. And I love too that you mentioned it wasn't like just the first time that he brought it up and you realized it was like he had to reflect it. And finally, you took the time to be like, okay, maybe I can take some ownership here and look deeper besides that. Because we often hide behind that. It's so common. It's like, well, that's just who I am. Even if it's something as simple as like, I'm a late person. Well, that's just who I am. I'm always late. It's like, okay, but why don't you actually do something about it? Actually reflect, why are you late? And I love that you could take the time and bring yourself through that process so that you can actually show your partner, like, okay, you were right. There is, because we can feel it when there's a different intention, even if they're not aware of it. Because obviously, like, he didn't know why you were doing that, but he could feel that there was something wrong. So, yeah, it's so helpful to have two people that can self-reflect and take ownership.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'd also love for you to describe how you processed defining this man, because I remember you saying you went on all these dates and kind of share that journey.
Yeah, I did what I call a dating challenge. So I was kind of clear of the kind of man I wanted in my life, the quality that I wanted in a partner, and I had made this real clear. And then I went on what I call a dating challenge. So I will go on like 3 dates, 4 dates a week, kind of, yeah, back to back, just to see what was my point of attraction. And with this, I will then reflect on each man that I had met and be like, okay, who did I attract? And is there qualities that I really like, that I feel like is really reflecting what I want to attract? And what's left over? What are the things that I'm not attracting yet? And so I will just review basically where's my point of attraction. So all these dates just helped me nailed this point of attraction. And the moment that I was dating, not dating, but I went on a few dates with a guy, and he was on point, like exactly all the qualities that I wanted in a man, but I just didn't feel this attraction with him. But it didn't matter because the challenge was all about nailing this point of attraction. And so I cut it off with him, and then I said, I'm done. I'm done dating. I know that my point of attraction is on point, and now I'm just going to focus on myself. I'm just going to live my life, focus on my business, blah, blah, be with my girlfriends. And 48 hours later, I met him. So yeah, that was kind of crazy.
That's amazing. And it's once again, it's like your radical ability to self-reflect and to grow. It's like each time you were getting better, you were learning, you were growing, and so oftentimes with dating, we're not doing that. Instead, we're just either one complaining about the person in front of us and then assuming that all men are like that and just diving into these steeper stories, or we're feeling like we're not enough and we're going into those stories. So it's like really not productive versus what you were saying. It's like I actually took information and shifted. So what were some of the things that you were able to tangibly do to start attracting a different kind of man each time?
Oof, that was a lot of different things. But I noticed that when I was dating, there was a guy that I felt really attracted to who will not give me any attention.
Mm.
I was attracted to men who were like kind of distant with me or, not giving me so much attention. I had to fight to go on a date with them. Or it's like, oh, are you available on that date? No, that's fine. I will reschedule. And I was still in that, pretty much in that masculine dynamic of me chasing the guy. And after a few ones like this, I was like, oh, there's something here. So that showed me, like, yeah, how much I was craving the attention that I didn't have, and therefore choosing men who will not give me this attention because that's what felt normal to me. So that was like one thing where I was like, oh, there's something here, right? And then shifting with, yeah, all the different feminine energy work to be able to see myself and be with someone who would just like me and therefore I like him too.
Yes, I love that. And, I also battle a lot with that of finding these men. It's just like you are hustling for love. Like it is a full-time
So
job
good.
and you need to work so hard instead of being in the leaning back, receiving, letting him come to you kind of energy. And it's exhausting and it just destroys your self-esteem.
Yeah, for sure. But I loved it at that time. I was just like so addicted to it because again, it's what felt normal to me. And I feel like whatever feels normal to us, that's what we go for. And that was just a great way to bring awareness to this pattern. I was like, oh, there's something here.
Mhm. Yeah, so good.
Mm.
And then you described, okay, so you got into it and there's these big conflicts and, repairing. And what do you think would be like the most helpful thing for a woman that's kind of in that stage of her relationship?
Oh, it was really difficult. Like honestly, that was just first acknowledging that these phases where you fight a lot, there's a lot of conflict, can feel mentally, emotionally exhausting.
Mhm.
Exhausting because there's just so much happening, and if you're also triggered, like on a nervous system reaction, it just can really drain your energy. And that's also what I felt back then when we were fighting a lot. I was just like fucking drained and emotionally tired of this. And what's also was something really interesting is that because I wasn't used to being in a relationship where fighting was a good thing, like conflict was a good thing, I would actually fully freeze during a conflict. And I remember we were in Bali walking on the beach, and there was like a tension about something, can't remember the topic, but we were like having a discussion about it. And literally, my brain would freeze, would go completely blank. I will not feel anything, completely numb from my body, and I will stare into the void for like 5, 10 minutes. Impossible to respond to what he was saying, completely dissociated and in full freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really difficult for me because I was like, there was like one sentence looping in my brain that I couldn't even voice to him. I was like in full freeze. So I had to do some somatic therapy for that. And that was like fucking life changing. It was like, oh my God, now I can have a conflict and stay in my body. And even if it's really difficult emotionally, I could still remain really grounded and not fully dissociate or go to freeze. And that was like such a win for me because then I was able to just have a conversation with him to resolve the problem, right? So depending as well on what's your conflict style, if you're someone that's really heated and then you blurp things out that you then regret, that will be more into fight. And that's just thing to consider and just noticing what's your conflict style. And if you've not learned to be in conflict, and if you fully freeze, that's also something to address because that will serve you in the long run in your relationship because conflict is inevitable and is actually great to build a relationship.
My love, you've built a life, you've built the career, you've built the success. But when it comes to love and softening and receiving, you're always the one in control, always thinking, planning, and doing. What if you didn't have to? Soft Girl Season is your invitation to melt into life where you feel safe, supported, and adored, where you actually can trust men, trust God, and trust yourself. Inside, women have found their dream partners, started receiving clients with less effort, and watched their men step up to pamper, cherish, and adore them, all by learning how to soften into their feminine energy. They've gone from feeling numb and guarded to magnetic, deeply loved, and radiant. So if you're ready to stop over-functioning and start being treated like a queen, come inside Soft Girl Season and let yourself be the woman who has it all. Join us using the link in the show notes and receive instant access and start being provided for by God and men. Yes, I love that you brought up that freeze response because it's a response I've been so used to my whole life. And it's such a weird feeling being so stuck and like wanting to respond or wanting to say something and you just cannot, or just feeling the whole blankness of not knowing anything anymore. And it's debilitating. And also the numbness that comes into your body in those moments. And that can last even for a few days or hours after that conversation. And then your partner is like getting, it just brings up so much. So what were some ways that helped you kind of thaw out the freeze response?
Yeah, so it was like full on therapy. Like, honestly, I didn't do a meditation on YouTube to solve that. It was actually because it's trauma. And with trauma, you really want to do something with someone, with a professional. So that's what I did. And yeah, it was just mind blowing how my body will react so strongly to just like this idea of conflict. Because in my head, conflict meant we're breaking up. That's it, that's the end. Because based on the previous relationship, that's what I experienced. And even in the model that I grew up with my parents, that was just not healthy conflict. And so, yeah, it was just like after doing therapy, I was able to, during a conflict, like really remain in my body. And just one easy thing that I was doing was focusing on, can I feel my feet? Can I feel the sole of my feet right now? And just bringing the attention back down, like moving the energy from the head, like down to the body. That was like something that would keep me then from dissociating and going into full freeze. Mm-hmm. And really just remaining anchored. It's like also developing the awareness of the somatic body. What's like, okay, I'm feeling really anxious. I'm feeling this in my belly. Maybe I feel like I want to puke, or, like when we have really big conflict, it's like, that's fine, like I can contain it. And I feel like with somatic therapy, what's wonderful with it is that it increases your capacity to hold that sensation, where before it was just like default mode, it's like shut down. So I feel like that's what really helped me to then be able to be in conflict.
Yes, that's something I do with most of my clients, is that holding the sensation. And it's not just with the discomfort, it's also teaching them how to hold the pleasure, how to hold the
Mm.
joy. And even in our orgasms, like we're reaching like such a small potential of the pleasure we can hold, but it takes learning how to feel that, because a lot of us, as you described, we weren't even allowed to feel this pleasure or joy. And it was like these conflicts were these huge, scary things. And building your capacity, I wish this stuff was taught in school because it's so needed. It's so needed to learn how to, like, okay, I have my feet on the floor right now. I'm here in this moment. I'm not in physical danger. Like your body's going
Mm.
into complete survival mode. And so to re-ground into the present moment is like one of the most simple and effective tools for those
Yeah.
really big, big sensations.
Mm-mm. For sure.
And I'd love to know, what are some ways that you've noticed, like some feminine energy techniques that bring out the best in your partner? So I know, like, there's a lot of ways you triggered him and kind of didn't bring out the best. And what have you noticed now after being in this relationship, like really support the masculine?
I feel like I was bringing a lot of playfulness in the relationship where it's like so much more playful and, where you can just giggle and laugh. But for this to happen again, like it was so much of somatic work because, like when your body is in fight or flight for so long, like you're fucking tensed. And it's like you might not even notice it because it's so normal for you to be that way, to experience life that way, that you're like, it's just normal. I'm always stressed or I'm always, like fucking tense around that topic. It's like by like de-armoring and deactivating every trigger that was coming up with someone, like with a professional, it was just great to be able to then be so much more embodied in this softness, playful, and as well like learning compassion.
Mm.
And I say learning because again, I did not know how to be compassionate. Like
Hmm.
seriously, I remember we even had a conflict in Bali on that topic because I was like, I don't know what should I do to be compassionate. Like I don't even know what it means to be that way. What's the behavior? What should I say? So I really had to learn as well, what does it mean to be compassionate? And that came as well with the somatic healing that I did. It was like, oh, it's because I am not compassionate with myself as well. It's like, oh my God. So it's like so many aha moments that came with this. I was like, oh, okay. And so bringing that into relationship, when he's not feeling so great, I can just be here and just loving and compassionate with him and not needing him to change or, to be the strong man all the time. It's like, no, you're allowed to feel that way and it's fine. I feel like that really just strengthened our relationship for sure.
Yes, those are two super good points and qualities of the feminine. Like the playfulness is, I think, one of the best and most nourishing qualities to the masculine. Like that energy is so, so good for ourselves too. Like we want to be in that fun inner child energy. And for them, it really helps because they're oftentimes so serious and so focused and, so have to be so strong. So when they're met with that, it's like, it's like this breath of fresh air for them. And that compassion too, that's something my partner brought up to me. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I know I'm compassionate. And he's like, yeah, you can be, but you're not always. And I was like, fuck. Yeah, it's just a tendency and patterns. And then, I reflect like I wasn't met with that compassion ever in these moments of conflict or of
Yeah.
you pointing out something or whatever. And of course, with myself, we always are so hard on ourselves. So it makes sense. And I think one of the things we need to remember is like in those moments of, especially your man pointing out something, which can be one of the hardest things to receive, like that reflection is being gracious with yourself and knowing you're not this way because you're a bad person or because you're mean or whatever. It's because of your circumstances, because of what you've learned, what you've happened in your life. And so like the grace point is really a quality that is needed for receiving that information
For sure.
because it's uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And okay, great. I love those. And so now let's talk a little bit more about this like anxious and avoidant, something you've touched on a few times, attachment styles and how to bring more of a stability in those attachments in your relationship.
Okay. So from my experience and also what I've seen with many clients, like we either tend to go on the avoidant side or the anxious side. And sometimes you have even both and you think you're anxious, but actually you're avoidant and then have anxious tendency or vice versa.
Yeah.
And for me, it was very, very evident that I was very avoidant. But again, as I said at the beginning, I was very unconscious of it. I just thought this is just what I do, who I am. It was even not even conscious. To give like a tangible example, it's like we'll have a conflict going on with my man, and I will go back to my house, and he would send me, like this long message. And what I would do was open it, read it really quickly, and then boom, park it, and then work. I was like, I don't have time for this. I'm busy. I need to work. Blah, blah, blah. And so for hours, I would let his message like on the side, and I would just focus on working and being like playful with my housemates and do any other things than reply to this message. And so again, with him being him, it was like, we're not dealing with this like that. And so I had to learn to feel the discomfort of receiving this kind of message that felt really annoying to me, because I was like, I'm busy. I have things to do. Like, I don't want to be in a conflict messaging thing happening. And so it was also like learning like to actually face that difficult sensation in my body and emotion of being triggered, being annoyed at him being so needy, like all of these things that I was telling myself, and actually just being able to resolve the conflict and go until the repairing phase. That was like something really important for us. And generally when we are avoidant, we attract someone who's anxious, and vice versa. So it's like perfectly made for us to be triggered. Yeah. And he was more on the anxious side, but I would say like he's quite securely attached. And the anxiousness that he felt was pretty accurate, because I was kind of trying to run away from, committing and being triggered by him pointing things out. So that was like really something we had to work on together. And I think something important to consider is like, sometimes there's this question of like, is my anxiousness because of my trauma, or is it because there's a valid reason? Mm-hmm. And honestly, most of the time it's both.
Yes.
It's like, it's not just your trauma. It's generally because there's something that you can feel that is off from the other person. And the other person might deny and feel like, no, everything is fine. But what you're picking up is on like a subtle thing that maybe they're not aware of. Yeah. Right? So I know that for a lot of people who are feeling more anxious in relationship, there's this self-doubt of like, am I crazy? Am I making this up? And the best way is always go into a conversation with your partner and be like, hey, I'm perceiving something. How are you feeling? And as I said, first, they might deny because they're not even aware that it's present for them. And over time, you might notice that, oh, actually, that was the truth, right? So it's also taking some time to have the conversation with your partner and both being willing to take accountability for what you're actually doing, and also this unconscious part that plays in the relationship.
Yes, everything you said was so beautiful. And I want to add one more thing, is like something I'm currently practicing is when you are sensing something and they're not even aware of it, and you bring it to them and they deny it, or they, just say that's not true, whatever it is, the responsibility of the person that's feeling that something is off is to stay with an open heart and to know that they're not responding in this way, or that you're not crazy, or they're not trying to deny you because they're trying to hide something. It's like they're unaware of it right now and they need more safety to access that and more time. So instead of like bringing more and more pressure to get to the root of what that is, or to have them answer you in a different way, it's like, okay, just bring that compassion to them, knowing that they're unaware of what's happening right now, or they're so scared to admit what you just saw in them, that the more you can actually lean back and give them love in it, that's what's going to help them find that and express that, versus you pressuring more, which is, and I'm so guilty of this right now. Currently, I'm facing this and I'm working on this because it's so hard, because when you feel something, it's like, boom, your trauma gets, your survival instincts go in, you think worst case scenario and whatever it may happen. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's really, an important piece. It's like, if the person in front is not yet aware of it, obviously there's going to be denial, but it's not because he's trying to make you feel bad. It's really because he's not aware of it, right? So for him, it will be true to say to you, no, that's not true. Right? And that's the crazy part. And so it's like, bring so much love, compassion, and safety. So then the relationship can develop. And then there will be more and more like, oh, actually, that's right. That's on spot. Spot on. But that will take time, and acknowledging that, building this safety within the relationship where like I have like zero doubt that even when I'm away of my man, like none, because I feel like what we've built is such a solid foundation of safety that if there's something up, we have the space to discuss about it. And I think that's something generally that can happen in relationships. Like if you haven't made the space to discuss about difficult topic, they will remain hidden. And the person will not feel safe to bring it up because he or she or you are scared that he's going to react to it, or he's going to break up with you if you do that, or if you say that. So it's like really developing this safety bubble where every topic can be talked about.
So let's talk about how to actually make that more tangible and how to create that safeness. And I think this is one of what you just described, one of the most important qualities of a thriving relationship, because it's scary to bring something up to your partner knowing that they might react in a certain way and that they might leave and you have all these thoughts, and you can't let that stop you from vocalizing these things, and you need to figure out what is it that makes your partner feel safe so that you can share these things.
Yeah, for sure. And what we implemented in our relationship quite early on that was really helpful, and if you want to take this on in your relationship, please do so, was that every 15 days, so every fortnight, we do a relationship check-in. So we ask ourselves, okay, how connected do you feel to me? How are just you, how do you feel? How connected do you feel in our relationship? What are you grateful for? And what are the area that you feel we need to talk about, or something that concerns you, or thing that have emerged or bothers you, or thing that I've done that triggered you? And we have once, an hour or 2 hours every 15 days where we have this space to discuss about all these topics. And most of the time, it's fucking uncomfortable when it comes after the gratitude phase where you go into the okay, so now. But again, with this somatic healing and practices to be able to contain the discomfort that you feel when you're receiving your partner's requests, needs, that will then develop this safety bubble within the container of your relationship.
Mm-hmm. And that check-in is like the master way to not let things get swept under the rug, because when you start to feel the resentment towards your partner, when you start to feel the distance and like lack of connection, that means you are a few conversations away of things that have not been spoken about. And so having that practice and that ritual set in place, although like you said, it's uncomfortable at times in the moments, it is what keeps this relationship thriving and successful, and so that you can actually have one of those long relationships that's full of love and not just so much resentment and, stories in your head about your partner.
For sure.
So great. I love that. I just wish these simple relationship things were taught more to people, because you see that everyone wants love, and it's something that we deeply desire, and yet we all often struggle to maintain it and to make it work. And being able to have these simple tools is, I think, so important. And is there anything else you'd recommend to really create a sustainable relationship?
Honestly, that's it. If you do like the somatic things to be able to contain more and communication, that is the main two key of a healthy relationship that will bring you so much fulfillment, love, and gratitude for the person you're sharing your life with. It's like, don't overcomplicate it. Don't make yourself a list of 15 things that you need to do. It's like just basics.
Yeah, the simplicity, I think, is, I mean, I always tell people it's like communication is the number one. It is the number one. You cannot have a relationship without healthy communication. And that also takes time to learn to do that with your partner. But it's something that is worth the time, the effort, the tears, reactions, because that's how we can sustain it.
Mhm.
And you talked a lot about the avoidance. Do you have any more recommendations for the anxious?
Again, I will say like it comes out to the same two things. It's like do the somatic healing practices with someone who's trained and learn about communication. Because also the way you communicate or worries or the things that you're experiencing really have an impact on the person who is the receiver of your message. And the way you formulate what you're going through is really important. And that also comes down to mastering the art of communication and conscious communication. And as I mentioned at the beginning, where I was just doing like, yeah, I do that because you do that, that's not conscious communication, that's blaming. That's like passive aggressive communication. So it's like, yeah, mastering the art of being able to express what's going on for you. Like, what are you feeling? What's going on? And then what's the need? What's your request? And also, can you bring compassion to what the person on the other side is experiencing without, pointing the finger at them.
So good. And that's what's hard too, is like sometimes you might be bringing up something that's really true or valid, or, sharing something that feels so vulnerable, but your delivery to it can literally make or break everything you're saying. And I've once again been struggling with this in my partnership, where it's like I'm hurting so bad, like, there's something he did that made me feel unsafe. But how I delivered it, I got none of what I needed from him because I was coming from a state of blame. And then when you're blaming someone, they become defensive and they have to protect
Yeah.
themselves against you.
Exactly. And I think that's a great way to assess how good your communication was, is do you get defensive reaction? And therefore that means that you kind of attacked, or the person felt attacked. And therefore there's always an element of, okay, can I take responsibility of how I delivered that? And sometimes in the heat of things, like you get so carried on, and that's why it's important to maybe just have some time to, okay, like, can you verbalize it to just your phone and just empty yourself out first? And then, okay, go back into, okay, what am I actually feeling? How is that a problem for me? What do I need?
That slow down piece is, I think, really big, because trauma is a sense of urgency. It was like, we have to have this conversation right now. I have to tell him right now. Da, 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 da. Like, even in how I just changed my voice, it's like there's an urgency that is trauma. And so taking that time to, like, let me brain dump this on myself first before I just project and just ruin not ruin, but create a lot of extra problems in the relationship. And that slow down process creates the spaciousness to connect some more dots so some more truth can be found before you bring it to your person.
Amen. Yep.
Because it's not comfortable. And everyone can relate, because you've been on the receiving end of someone projecting and blaming you or pointing, and it's completely unproductive communication.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So I want to ask one, actually, I would like to hear two. So the last question of the podcast is, what are two of your favorite romantic memories you've had?
One was definitely like in Bali, where he organized for me a trip. He hired a driver that picked me up from my house and drove me 3 hours away. I had no idea where I was going. He was not even in the car with me. He was already in the location. And we arrived there. I arrived there and I was like, wow, he hired like just a beautiful villa with a huge swimming pool, and the landscape and the view was just splendid. And we spent like 3 days together in this villa. And then there was like a beautiful dinner with flowers everywhere organized. I was like, what is this? This is insane. That was a beautiful one. And another one, which was actually very interesting. We were in a hotel and we were flying home, and he was going through actually a really difficult phase. And he offered me out. He said, you don't have to stay if you want. Like, you can leave me, you can break up with me, and I will not be bothered. That will break my heart, but I will not hold you accountable for this. And I thought that was just so, I don't know, beautiful of him to be so mindful of what it do to me, like seeing him that way. And I was like, oh, like that is what a relationship is about. It's not just being great and 10 out of 10 every single day. It's like, no, there's going to be a rough day, but it's about being together and going through this together. And yeah, I thought that was really beautiful too.
Yeah, when that second story, I got full body chills when you shared that. It's like such a sweet, vulnerable moment. And that's the essence of love, is like being there for each other in those like super tender, raw moments. And especially from the masculine, not to say that like it's easier for women, but like for them to say that and get there is like, oh, it just like makes you pour gush out love for them. It's so
Yeah.
crazy. That's so sweet. Thank you for sharing these. And I'd love for you to tell everyone that's listening where they can find you, what you're offering, how they can work with you.
Yeah, just find me on Instagram. There's my account, ___. And pretty much everything on my story you will find. I have many, many different ways to work together: container, group, mastermind, one-on-one. Like, there's so many. It's a beautiful buffet that you can pick from, and you will see what you feel pulled towards.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I love this episode. You made it to the end of the episode, so now it's time for our snuggly heart breath of the day. Place a hand or both hands, if it's safe to do so, over your heart, and take a big breath into your heart center. Open your mouth and let it go. I'm so grateful to have shared this time with you. If you enjoyed this combo, please share with your besties and your fam. And if you're a visual person like me, fly over to YouTube and watch the video. If you want to do a random act of kindness today, please leave a 5-star review so more people in the world can get their heart snuggled. You're helping tremendously when you do this, so thank you so much. And as a gift for doing so, I'll give you my Soften Your Heart Medi that feels like an exhale and a hug from within. When you leave a review and email me the screenshot to heartsnuggles@alivetoenjoy.com, you can also find the email in the show notes and you'll get the free meditation. Sending you the warmest, comfiest hug and lots of unexpected blessings your way. Remember that every single person just wants to be loved. So how can you be loved today?